Hi, I'm Rebecca with Cherished Children Ministries. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about the concrete random learning style in adults, parents, and children, and some different ways that we can accommodate for these styles, some different stressors that they have, and ways that they thrive. I teach classes on all of this, on struggling learners, how to get your struggling learner thriving. It includes the different learning styles. It includes any spectrum kinds of disorders such as dyslexia, ADD, ADHD, autism, and other spectrum kinds of disorders. It's over 6 hours of step-by-step instruction with all the flashcards and tools as well as assessments that you need to get your learners thriving today. If you want to check that out, go ahead and click the link below. Let's talk about the concrete random adult. The concrete random adult is least likely of all of the styles to take anyone's word for something. They really need to have the experience for themselves. They believe that you cannot break away from the ordinary unless you are willing to go out on a limb. They're very intuitive and they are very quick thinkers. They're curious, they are resourceful, they're hands-on, and they are unpredictable. You're probably thinking of one of your little learners right now who might be like this. I know I am. The concrete randoms like to have options without structure or routine. They're constantly looking for new challenges and they want to do things that they have never done before. They drop things quickly if it becomes boring or monotonous. Concrete random adults have several careers in a lifetime, and that is not necessarily a negative thing. The concrete randoms can think really quickly and they're very witty. They struggle with the rules and regulations if they do not seem to have a practical reason. They're very extreme in both senses of achievement, as in they will strive if they are told that it is impossible, while on the other hand, they might go ahead and ignore goals if they have decided that it's really just not worth it. Our concrete randoms sometimes frustrate people that have more of a sequential style just simply because they do not go by the book and they just always see a change. They want to change something or try something new. These kinds of learners keep everybody growing and everybody challenged in different kinds of possibilities that might not have ever been thought of otherwise. So there was once an instance where there was a student, and this student decided that she was not going to do the homework in the professor's class. The professor said that there would be absolutely no way that you would be able to get an A in the class if you did not do the homework because the homework accounted for 50% of the grade. Now, this student had such a concrete, random learning style that quite honestly, that didn't matter. The student had already decided that she wasn't going to do the homework, yet she would go ahead and receive a passing grade in the class. And when the professor said, well, you're going to have to get A's on the tests because by not doing the homework, that accounts for 50% of your grade, so there will be no way that you can pass the class. Well, she went ahead and challenged that, and she did study for the test, but she did choose not to do the homework. She came out of that class with a C and said it was the best C that she had ever made because she proved that she could get the C without having to do the homework. And to her, that was success. So I'm sure you can think of somebody right now that might have that same kind of personality or learning style. And so it just is what it is. That is how they learn best. That is their style. It will not change. They're very intelligent. They just do things a little bit different than the other styles. The concrete random parents are often frustrated at times whenever the kids do not do what they are told to do. So these parents are passionate about their convictions and they create exciting games for the kids to play whenever their friends come over, and they want to encourage them to play it to its fullest. They live for adventure and they want their kids to do the things that the other kids are doing. So again, you can see where this may clash if you do not have this kind of child that has this type of learning personality. So it can be difficult to have a concrete random child because they often have standoff kind of conflict since they are so much alike. So oftentimes we get into yes/no battles with parents and students or children that have these different styles, especially the concrete random style. It's kind of like a fight for the authority. So in that case, you want to make sure that if that battle does continue, you don't want to give in to the child, but also you don't want to break that spirit. So you might find some kind of compromise. For example, so maybe the lights are supposed to be turned off at a certain time and the child turns the lights on and they go get a drink of water. So you want to make sure that the lights do continue to stay off. And if you need to let the child get a drink of water, that is one thing. But maybe you guys can sing a song together, make sure that the lights are off. And another thing that parents often do is go ahead and just have the child say, yes, mom, or yes, ma'am, or yes, dad, or yes, sir, something like that. So like if there is a command, an imperative kind of a statement, like please make sure you turn off the lights and go straight to bed. If the child can say yes ma'am or yes mom or yes sir, yes dad, something like that, at least lets them kind of have that last word, yet they are being obedient, and then it's a win-win for both of those, parent and the child, with that same personality. So just use whatever works best for you, because it can be kind of tricky. You just know your kids best, so you'll know what works best for you and your family. So now let's talk about the concrete random child. Concrete random kids are really energetic and they're curious and they have new ideas. They don't like to be bored. Boredom is actually the enemy. These kids can be strong-willed and they are determined to control their own lives. Make sure that we caution here whenever it comes to a relationship with the Lord, because we want to make sure that these kids know that He's actually the one in control. And so we want to teach them His character and His mind. And so this is something that you'll have to work with your child on, just a scripturally kind of base. But you will want to make sure that the strong-willed kiddos do succumb to that Holy Spirit upon conviction and surrendering to that authority. So surrendering to authority is very complicated for them. So it's very important for them to understand that it is really important to surrender at times whenever we have authority kinds of rules and regulations. Concrete random kids can easily aggravate their parents. The concrete randoms do expect boundaries and they welcome that security, but you know what? They like to have some say in those rules and the why behind those rules, and then they often obey them much better because they've actually committed to that. I know in my classroom and even in my own home, we have so many different learning styles. We come up with just about 3 to 5 at the most, rules, especially with our younger learners. And I just collect ideas from around the room or from around our home, and I just ask, what do you think that we need to do? And I lay the foundation of, okay, so we want to make sure we're respecting other people's privacy and space and being kind and gentle, right? Like all of those kinds of things. And then they get to share what they think needs to be on the rule list. And so I'll write it on a big piece of chart paper and I'll collect all of the ideas. And it's amazing that several of the ideas sound very similar. So I will culminate those into my own mind and then write them on the chart paper. And I'll ask to make sure, is that okay if I combine your ideas together? I want to make sure it's okay with them. Then at the end, when we come up with 3 to 5, and that's it, because seriously, you can accomplish a ton of things in 3 to 5 rules. Then I will just let them pick out their favorite color marker and then they sign it. And so it's like a contract. It's like a binding agreement. So then whenever something happens, then I can say, oh, what rule was that? And then they can go back and then can say, oh, you know what? Yeah, I wasn't being kind to my neighbor. I wasn't really allowing them to work in peace, or whatever the infraction might be. Something else that comes to mind, especially with my littler learners and my little kids at home, is eating time or meal time with these concrete randoms. So we might say something like, okay, you don't have to eat what's on your plate, because maybe we're having an argument about that, a yes-no kind of a conversation. And so instead of getting engaged into that, we can simply say, okay, well, that is fine. We will go ahead and wrap it. We'll put it in the refrigerator, and then you can go ahead and have this for breakfast in the morning, but you won't have anything else to eat for the rest of the evening. So then that gives that learner a choice of, okay, so I am not going to go hungry. I'm going to get to eat, So I can either eat what's on my plate or I can eat it in the morning. So they get to actually make that decision, but it's not giving up your authority as the parent as to what you have said. Because quite honestly, most parents are not going to feed their children something that they don't like. Usually it's just kind of a picky kind of a thing. And I do lessons on all of that picky eating kind of things in another class that I do with primitive reflex and brain balance integration. So that's another story in and of itself. You might want to check that out if you do have that picky eater problem. But that's just a little tip for you. So our concrete randoms, they thrive with inspiration and independence and compelling reasons and freedom to choose options as well as guidelines instead of rules, and opportunities for creative alternatives. Now, our concrete randoms can be stressed by excessive restrictions and limitations or forced schedules and routines. Again, do you see how that's different than some of the other styles that we have talked about that really like those strict schedules and routines? So just a huge difference in styles. The concrete random learners can also be stressed by not being appreciated as a unique individual or not being given credit for knowing the right thing to do. Now, we can frequently lessen these stresses by just allowing some freedom without letting them win exactly, by backing off just a bit and not forcing it. We can lessen the stress by learning to inspire these learners and encourage them in many different ways to attain the same kind of goal. And we can give love and guidance in all kinds of situations with our concrete random learners. Now, others admire different things about our concrete random learners. Oftentimes, what's admired about our concrete random learners are their intuition and their sense of humor, their creativity, their independence, and their varied personality. Now, again, there are some negative perceptions by the other styles, not necessarily true, but just some perceptions in that others might think that they are a one-man show. Maybe they think they're not a team player. Again, not necessarily true, just a perception that others might have. The others might think that they are stubborn and uncompromising. They might think that they're impulsive, and they ask why way too much. So some ways that we can get along with our concrete randoms is to have a sense of humor and tell them what. Be flexible and tell them what they did right, not necessarily what they did wrong. Do not be threatened by enthusiasm. Keep them involved. They want input. They want to be given responsibility. Be open to change with them. They want to know why they need to go all out. They need to know the limits and then push them to those limits and then guide them where they want to go and then go ahead and give them the freedom to go. Click the link below for your own assessment tool for yourself and for your learners in your classroom. Just click the link below and grab your free download. Well, I hope you like this video. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you for watching this video.